Revealed, unbelievable $14 billion trust fund alters life of woman kicked out by billionaire in-laws. Sarah stood in the dusty attic, the air thick with dust motes dancing on the slivers of sunlight. Afternoons like this, surrounded by echoing memories of laughter and love, felt heavier with each passing second since her husband's death. She had given everything: her heart, her time, her dreams. All she had left were two brilliant kids, each carrying pieces of their father. But when her in-laws walked through their front door, it was clear they saw her as nothing more than a woman who didn't belong. With trembling fingers, Sarah unfolded old family documents. Among old letters and photographs, she found a legal document stating there was a $14 billion trust fund, established in her late husband's name for their children. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Billionaire in-laws who had pushed her aside, now after their children's truth. It felt outrageous and surreal. How could they turn their back on her and the legacy her husband intended for their kids? Tears stung her eyes as the moments flooded back, the love they shared, his laughter that filled their home, and the coldness of her in-laws since his passing. Just the mother of their grandchildren, they would say, dismissing her existence. It was infuriating. Now, Sarah felt an emboldened fire within her. Fight? Oh, she would fight for those kids. For their future. For the respect that was stripped from her the moment she lost him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With her heart pounding, Sarah vowed to reclaim what belonged to her children. Day after day, she worked multiple jobs as a waitress and a grocery clerk, her body aching but her will unyielding. Neighbors noticed. They rallied around her, organizing bake sales and fundraisers, cementing the notion that they were all in this together. Each cupcake and coffee sold symbolized the community's commitment to uplifting one another. It was as if her grief spread into their hearts and took root, blossoming into tangible hope. As the court date crept closer, the stakes climbed higher. While sorting through memories, another revelation surfaced: a stunning family secret that dismantled everything she thought she knew about her husband's family. Fear twisted in her stomach. What other truths lay buried beneath layers of deception? Standing tall, yet feeling vulnerable, there was power in this fierce love she had for her children. But would the importance of that love be enough to traverse the chasm between elite and ordinary? As the courtroom loomed, Sarah wrestled with mounting anxieties. Would she do this? Would she triumph against the tide of wealth and prejudice? With a gasp, her nerves threatening to burst, she whispered to herself, "For them." And in that moment of uncertainty, the story hung delicately in the air. Would she find the strength to face the monsters surrounding her? Did justice genuinely exist? The unspoken questions lingered, every word echoing the pulse of hope that lay within her, waiting for its time to rise. The day of the hearing arrived, and Sarah stood outside the towering courthouse, her heart racing in her chest. Each step felt like a challenge. She glanced around, taking in the pristine marble facade, the throng of lawyers in sharp suits, and the powerful families gathered inside. It was a world that had always felt foreign to her, and now it pressed against her like invisible walls. She took a deep breath, straightened her back, and reminded herself of the many faces that had stood by her side, cheering her on in whispers of support. The baristas who had gifted extra cups of coffee, the stay-at-home moms who helped with her kids, and the retired couple who offered to babysit whenever they could. Their kindness flooded her with strength. In the courtroom, the atmosphere felt electric. The judge, a stern woman with sharp features, took her seat, glancing over her glasses at the array of lawyers positioned at either side. Sarah's in-laws were already there, their expressions a mix of disdain and calculated indifference. They radiated power, but that power also went hand in hand with the pain they'd caused her. "May I approach?" Sarah asked when her turn came to speak. Her voice cracked slightly, but she walked with conviction up to the stand. She looked at the judge, her heart pounding. The truth of why she was here felt heavy on her shoulders, but she couldn't allow fear to weigh her down. "Your Honor," she began, steadier than she felt. "I stand before you not just as a grieving widow, but as a mother fighting for her children. My husband's love created a life for us, a life that his parents now wish to erase. We deserve our share of that legacy." She felt the eyes of the courtroom on her, some in pity, some in disbelief, yet she held her ground. The opposing counsel rose, a sleek man in a tailored suit who smirked as he prepared to dismantle her words. "Mrs. Jenkins, with all due respect, the trust fund in question belongs to the children. You have no claim to it, nor the right to speak on their behalf. Your marriage was merely a transaction. The institution of love hardly holds weight in matters concerning money." The room gasped, and Sarah's heart sank for a moment. But then, the faces of her children flashed before her, a picture of innocence that lit a fire in her gut. She couldn't let that be the last word. "My marriage was a partnership based on love and trust," she snapped back, her voice sharpening. "My husband wanted our children to have security. His dreams came with me, not despite me. You don't get to reduce our story to a monetary transaction." As her words filled the air, she saw some nods from the audience. The judge's brow furrowed, a flicker of interest crossing her face. But then, the attorney revealed papers that twisted her stomach. "Here is evidence, Your Honor," he declared, "of Mrs. Jenkins' husband's insistence that the family fortune be divided only among blood heirs. She does not qualify." Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, the walls of the courtroom closing in. Desperation clawed at her mind. She felt her pulse quickening, threatening to drag her under. Did they really think it was over? Just as she felt her resolve wavering, she caught a glimpse of a familiar face, her neighbor from across the street, Mary, holding her daughter's hand. They smiled encouragingly, and a part of her sparked alive again. This was about more than money. It was about family, love, and the rights her children deserved. With shaky legs, she stepped back toward the podium, prepared for the battle that lay ahead. But a new thought flickered in her mind. What if my husband wasn't the only one keeping secrets? She wondered. The momentum of her heart quickened with the possibilities. In that moment, she realized this fight wasn't just a duel with her in-laws. It was about unveiling the truth, the one that would finally honor her husband's legacy. Would she dare to seek the secrets of the family that had tried to erase her? And that question loomed, heavy and tantalizing. What other truths awaited her? What did the past hold? For them all? The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Sarah's heart raced as she faced the judge again. She could feel the eyes of her in-laws on her, like daggers piercing through her resolve. But a newfound determination surged within her. This wasn't just about the money. It was about holding on to her family and the memory of her husband. "Your Honor," she began again, her voice steadier, "I may not be a blood heir according to their definitions, but I am a mother. I know the love and security my husband wanted for our children. I know what he believed in." The judge regarded her thoughtfully, her expression softening slightly. Sarah pushed forward. "The documents my in-laws presented aren't just words on paper. They dismissed the family we built together, the life we shared. Were they not present in our home? Did they not witness our bond? I refuse to let them define what I mean to my husband and our children." The opposing counsel interrupted, his tone sharp. "Mrs. Jenkins, you are clearly emotional. This is not a matter of feelings, it's about legality. Your husband's last will is clear." "Legality?" Sarah snapped, the fire inside her igniting and illuminating the dim spaces of doubt. "But what of love? What of promises made? The law may dictate terms, but my husband's heart cannot be bound by it." She could sense the audience's shifting sentiment. Whispers scampered through the room, the tension crackling like static. Taking a deep breath, she turned her gaze to the judge. "Your Honor, I understand my in-laws want to protect their family name, but what they don't understand is that family is built on deeper connections. I loved their son, and I fought alongside him for everything we had. They may try to shut me out, but my children are innocent in this. They should know their father's love, not just his wealth. The judge's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a brief moment, Sarah believed she saw a flicker of respect. But then, she heard a muffled voice in the background. Turning, she spotted Mary again, this time with a small group of neighbors behind her. They stood there with unwavering support, a band of ordinary people willing to back her up. A wave of warmth spread through Sarah. She wasn't alone. Sarah could feel every heartbeat in the room, both trepidation and hope buzzing around her. These were her people. They looked to her for strength. She could not fail them. I am not just here for myself, but for every mother who faces a struggle like this. My husband loved his family, all of us, and I will fight for their dreams just as fiercely as I fought for our love. Mrs. Jenkins, the judge spoke up, eyes narrowing slightly. It sounds as if you believe my ruling will come down to personal sentiment. However, this is a matter of estate law, and I must base my decision on the documentation presented. With a nod, Sarah acknowledged the reality, but her spirit refused to be dimmed. Then I will bring to light the truths hidden in that very documentation. If my husband wasn't he the only one with secrets, then we need to uncover them, and we need to do it now. The judge listened intently as Sarah continued, the words flowing faster now. If my husband left behind anything, it was a legacy of bravery, honesty, and love. What if there's more to this trust than what we know? What if he was protecting us in ways we don't yet understand? The atmosphere shifted, a new energy weaving through the room. The judge leaned forward, intrigued. But Sarah wasn't done. They think my presence can easily be erased, but I refuse to disappear. Just as my love for Jack won't fade, neither will the fight for his family's truth. With that, a heavy silence fell over the courtroom. Everyone held their breath. Sarah could feel the tremors of uncertainty rippling through her in-laws. Perhaps they too had secrets they'd prefer to keep buried. And just as she thought she might have caught a glimpse of fear in their eyes, an unexpected figure rose from the back of the courtroom. A woman with graying hair, clutching a folder. The moment felt electric. Who is she? What truths would she bring? Would this woman turn the tide in Sarah's favor or plunge her deeper into the shadows of the family legacy? The air hummed with tension, and Sarah's heart raced in anticipation of the twist that was about to unfold. The woman stepped forward, her frail hands gripping the folder tightly. Sarah's heart pounded louder, drowning out the murmurs of the courtroom. Who is this stranger? Did she hold the key to what lay ahead? "Excuse me, Your Honor," the woman said, her voice tremulous yet steady. Everyone turned to her, curiosity etched on their faces. "My name is Ellen Thompson. I was a close friend of Jack." That dropped like a stone. Sarah felt a surge of hope. A friend? What did she know? "Why are you here?" the judge asked, maintaining her authority amidst the chaos. Ellen cleared her throat, gathering her thoughts. "I have documents that relate to Jack's estate, documents that were never included in the original will. I believe they're important for this case." The opposing counsel stood, incredulous. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We can't just let her speak." Sarah interjected, desperation pushing her words out. "Please, we need to hear her." With a nod, the judge gestured for Ellen to continue. Her hands shook as she opened the folder, revealing a stack of papers. She pulled out one and pointed it toward the judge. Sarah leaned forward, her breath hitching. "This document proves that Jack had established an additional trust, one that covers his wishes for his family not just financially, but emotionally," Ellen explained. The murmurs in the courtroom grew louder, doubt and curiosity colliding. "Wait," the opposing counsel said, stumbling over his words. "This can't be legitimate. It hasn't been notarized. It's nonsense." "Is it?" Ellen replied, her gaze fierce. "Jack wanted to ensure that Sarah and the kids were financially safe. He knew his family would fight against her." She paused, eyes darting toward Sarah. "But he also wanted to ensure they remembered him not as a wealthy man, but as a loving father and husband." "Your Honor," the judge said, voice calm but authoritative, "we need to analyze this document further. We can't dismiss it without proper review." As she spoke, Sarah felt a flicker of power. Hope began to swell within her, like the first light of dawn. The family legacy, their hesitations, everything they tried to hide, was beginning to unravel. The grip her in-laws had on their facade was shaky. Jack believed in love more than money, Ellen continued, her voice rising with conviction. He wanted Sarah to have the means to provide for their children. He loved her deeply. At that moment, Mary, standing vigil near the back, caught Sarah's eye and smiled. A real, heartfelt smile filled with solidarity. Sarah's heart swelled. This battle felt less like a solo confrontation and more like a united front. Ellen's voice cut back in. And if this is the trust one believe it to be, it could change everything. Her eyes shifted towards Sarah, and for a moment, there seemed to be an understanding, a reassurance between them. With the new revelation shaking the foundation of the courtroom, Sarah sensed the tide was turning. The judge would deliberate, and for the first time in what felt like ages, she felt something in her chest unhinge, the weight of despair shattering little by little. "Can we call more witnesses?" Sarah blurted out, her voice filling the stillness. What if there are others who know what Jack intended? What if? Her thoughts lingered in the air as if daring someone to act. The courtroom shifted, the dynamics twisting in Sarah's favor. But then she noticed the glimmer of anger creeping into her in-laws' eyes as they exchanged hurried whispers. Fear danced in their gaze, and suddenly Sarah realized they might have some truths of their own to expose. What more could they possibly be hiding? With each tick of the clock, the air thickened with uncertainty and anticipation. Their secrets begged to be uncovered, and Sarah would dig deeper than ever. As the judge declared a recess, Sarah's heart raced. A wild mix of hope and fear swirled within her. Would the next move be one they could navigate? And who else shared the shadows of Jack's past? The room cleared, conversations swirling like leaves in the wind. She stood, unexpected. Alliances forming, new paths opening. The battle was far from over, and truth was about to ignite in ways she could never have imagined. As the gavel sounded for recess, the tension in the room was palpable. Sarah stood, torn between exhilaration and apprehension. Ellen Thompson's brave testimony had shifted the scales ever so slightly in her favor, but the war wasn't over. "Sarah." Mary approached, her eyes bright with encouragement. "You handled that so well. I can't believe what she just shared." "Thanks," Sarah replied, forcing a smile as her heart continued to race. "But we've only begun. What if they dismiss everything?" Mary placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "They can't ignore evidence, especially not after what Ellen just said. You've got support now. You're not alone." Ellen joined them, her breath coming in short bursts. "Listening to you today, Sarah, it made me remember how much Jack cared. All this paperwork, it's just a glimpse into his heart. You deserve to know everything he wanted for you." A wave of gratitude washed over Sarah. These were not just random words. They were a lifeline thrown when she felt she was drowning. "Thank you for being here. I just wish I knew what all of this really means." "It means you fight. You keep pushing." "There are still pieces left to uncover," Ellen replied, her eyes sparkling with steely determination. "And not just for you, but for your children too." Just then, a familiar voice broke through the chatter. "Sarah, could I speak with you?" It was George, her father-in-law, flanked by his two sisters. The shadows of unease danced in their eyes, but it was the resoluteness in George's tone that sent chills down Sarah's spine. "Now?" she asked, wary of his intentions. "You just tried to undermine everything I stand for in there." He ignored her accusation, his demeanor stern. "This is serious. We need to discuss what has come to light." Against her better judgment, curiosity piqued, Sarah nodded and followed him into a quieter corner of the courthouse. His sisters hovered close, casting glances that flickered between anxiety and defiance. "Jack had complexities in his life," George began, his voice low. "Ellen may have shared that document, but there are other things you should know, things he never wanted you to find out, especially right now." Her heart thundered as she prepared for confrontation. What does that mean? What could be more important than the truth about his estate? In that moment, the judge's voice called for everyone to reconvene. With a glance back at Mary and Ellen, who watched with concern, Sarah felt a new burden settle within her. Could George's words hold weight? Was there really more to Jack's story that could hurt her or the kids? Please just tell me, she urged, frustration overtaking her cautious optimism. But George only held her gaze, the corners of his mouth tightening. You need to choose wisely, Sarah. There are secrets bound up with your happiness and the kids' future. Not everything can be illuminated without a cost. She fought against the anger rising in her throat. Are you threatening me? This is my life and my children's future we're talking about here. I'm warning you. Not everything is black and white. Sometimes shadows hide the truth, he warned, stepping back, his expression unreadable. The gavel echoed again, shaking Sarah from her tumultuous thoughts as the court filed back in. Her mind raced with the implications. The weight of secrets wrapped tightly around her heart, squeezing tight. As she took her seat, the adrenaline surged. Would George's looming threats manifest into something more? What darkness might still linger in Jack's past? The next chapter of this battle was about to unfold, and Sarah felt more determined than ever to shine light into the shadows. But she couldn't shake the urgency in George's warning. What could follow if she poked around where she shouldn't? As she prepared for the courtroom drama to resume, the complex web of love, loss, and hidden truths tugged at her heart. What other revelations or dangers awaited her? As the jury settled back into their seats, Sarah felt the weight of their gazes. Each pair of eyes seemed to harbor an expectation for her to unveil some new truth, a hidden gem amid a trove of uncertainty. She clenched her fists, her heart racing as the judge called for order. With a steady voice, the proceedings resumed, everything tinged with urgency. I just need to focus, she whispered to herself, drawing in a deep breath. Ellen leaned over, her whisper barely above the murmur of the courtroom. You've got this, Sarah. Remember why you're here. You owe it to your kids and to Jack. Right, Sarah whispered back, attempting to grasp the fleeting anchor of hope in Ellen's words. They grounded her, but the shadows cast by George's warnings loomed in the corners of her mind, a constant reminder that not all was as it seemed. The judge called the next witness. A voice echoed from the stand. It was a financial expert, called to shed light on Jack's affairs. The man adjusted his glasses and glanced around before addressing the court, his tone clinical but devoid of emotion. Mr. Harrison had a substantial business empire worth billions, along with several trusts set up for his family. Sarah's breath hitched. This was at the moment she needed to hear more about the truth concerning her children's potential legacy. Details floated before her, highlighting numbers and assets, but her mind snagged on the thought of the darker implications lurking behind George's words. Midway through the expert's testimony, something shifted in the room. A rustle, whispers, an exchange of glances. The judge raised an eyebrow, and the tension tightened around Sarah like a vice. Just as she leaned forward, desperate for clarity, an unexpected figure appeared in the doorway, causing everyone to turn. It was Diana, Jack's estranged sister. Sarah hadn't seen her in years, and her presence sent a ripple of intrigue through the court. Diana's expression was unreadable as she approached the judge, murmuring something low under her breath. Then, to Sarah's shock, she approached the witness stand, her intentions enveloped in mystery. Your Honor, I have information regarding Jack's finances that could change everything, Diana stated firmly, her voice breaking slightly. The buzz in the courtroom escalated, a storm of curiosity and apprehension building. Sarah's heart raced. Would Diana's words reveal secrets wrapped up in Jack's past? Had he kept essential truths buried even from those who were closest to him? Your Honor, I object. This is completely outside of the scheduled testimony, George interjected, his face strained but determined. A flicker of anger flashed through Sarah. He couldn't keep hiding behind his formalities when the truth was slipping into an open floodgate. Mr. Harrison's family deserves to know the truth, Diana countered, refusing to shrink back. Jack wanted this information brought to light. I've kept silent for far too long. The judge's gaze flickered between the two parties, indecision clouding his expression. What would he choose? The norms of court procedure or the desperate need for truth? Sarah's palms turned clammy as the silence amplified her racing thoughts. What secrets awaited them? The grip of anxiety around her heart began to loosen, replaced by a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, Diana held a key to unlock the truth. With a nod, the judge motioned for Diana to continue. "Proceed," the judge commanded, and the words hung in the air like a dam about to burst. Diana stepped into the light, her words poised to fracture the foundations of everything Sarah thought she knew. Would this moment jeopardize or fortify her fight? The next breath held unyielding anticipation, heavy with possibility. Could this revelation shift the very paradigm of her struggle? As Diana took a deep breath, Sarah leaned closer, ready for the storm of secrets to unfold. What did Jack truly hide? Diana cleared her throat, and the hush in the courtroom deepened. Her voice shook, but there was a fire behind her eyes that stirred something deep within Sarah. "I was hesitant to come forward, but Jack wanted you all to know the truth about a trust fund." The words crackled like electricity. Sarah felt an invisible tether between her and Diana. It tightened as her heart flickered with hope. A trust fund? But what kind? Her children's future danced tantalizingly at the edge of her mind. Diana continued, "Jack set up a trust worth $14 billion for his family. It's been managed by a firm he trusted. He told me he never wanted any of you to struggle." The gasps around the courtroom were palpable. Sarah's breath hitched again, this time from disbelief mixed with a rushing wave of emotion. Did this mean her children were secure? Did it mean she wouldn't have to fight tooth and nail to give them the life they deserved? She shot a glance at George, watching his stony face ripple with confusion and, perhaps, a hint of fear. Diana's revelation had cut through the facade he deconstructed, raising new questions about the truth he clung to so desperately. "Your Honor, I object." George's voice rang out again, louder this time, as he leaned forward, almost pleading. "This is absurd. We can't trust the word of someone who has been estranged from the family." Diana turned sharply to him, her resolve unwavering. "You think I came here to make false claims? Jack cared deeply about his family. The truth is, he loved Sarah and his kids more than you know. He wanted to shield them from those who have only seen the dollar signs." The courtroom buzz simmered into a tense calm, eyes darting from Diana to Sarah. There was weight to her words, an unseen thread weaving connections between the past and the present. Sarah felt buoyed by this unexpected alliance. "What do you mean by shield?" The judge interrupted, his brow furrowed as he considered the implications. "Are you suggesting there have been attempts to conceal this trust?" Diana nodded. "Yes. There have been several legal drones buzzing around Jack's affairs, all in attempts to divert funds into personal pockets. I can prove it." She turned to the jury, her determination evident. "This trust is meant to protect his family, and I'm here to make sure it does." Sarah's heart raced, unable to keep up with the highs and lows, hope, fear, anger. Every beat echoed with questions. How could George have been handling such a vast fortune without informing them? How much more was hidden beneath the surface? "Why now, Diana?" A voice piped up from the crowd. "Why expose this now?" Diana looked them squarely in the eyes. "Because family is worth more than money, and Jack believed in that. I wish I'd spoken up sooner. What he wanted matters more than what's on paper." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Sarah's pulse quickened as the pieces began to align. "Your Honor, I respectfully ask for a full accounting of the details surrounding this trust." George's anger was flaring, but he was on the defensive now, struggling to maintain control. "Yes, you will," the judge declared, an unmistakable firmness in his voice. "This court will review all evidence concerning Mr. Harrison's finances and family trusts." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was the turning point she had been hoping for, yet uncertainty nagged at her edges. Was this trust all it seemed? What other shadows lurked in the corners of Jack's financial world? But one question blared louder than the rest. If this trust existed to benefit her children, what did it mean for her relationship with Jack's family and George, in particular? Just then, Ellen grabbed her hand, squeezing tightly. "Sarah, breathe. Focus on your kids and the future," she whispered, grounding Sarah one more time. In that moment, Sarah realized she was no longer standing alone. Surrounded by allies, she felt the clouds of doubt start to lift. Yet, cloaked in uncertainty, one thought echoed: would the truth truly set them free, or would it unearth deeper betrayals? And as Diana prepared to produce the first pieces of evidence, Sarah braced herself for the tempest that lay ahead. Diana stepped forward, confidence radiating from her as she opened a brown folder filled with documents. The courtroom hovered in suspense, with every eye glued to her. Sarah felt the weight of anticipation heavy in the air. This was more than just a fight for money. It was an unveiling of truths that might well redefine their lives. "Here," Diana said, holding up a paper. "This is the founding document of the trust, signed by Jack himself." She addressed the court, her voice firm but trembling slightly at the edges. "He established it when the children were born, to ensure they would never experience financial hardship. It's been his greatest wish." With a flick of her wrist, she passed the documents to the judge, who accepted them with a nod. Sarah's heart raced. The glimmering hope that had been lingering finally began to solidify within her. This was evidence, tangible proof of Jack's intentions. But a small voice inside her reminded her of George's influence. "Let us not get ahead of ourselves," George interrupted, recovering from his earlier surprise. "Anyone can create a document. The truth is, this could just be a manipulation to cloud the real issues at hand." His voice dripped with condescension, as if daring anyone to challenge him. "You mean like the manipulation you've done for years?" Ellen shot back, her voice sharp. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, a small rebellion against George's controlling demeanor. "Objection!" he shouted, frustration boiling over. The judge held up a hand, silencing him instantly. "I will not tolerate any more interruptions, Mr. Harrison." Diana pressed on undeterred. "This trust has been hidden, manipulated just as Jack feared. My testimony will prove it. There are records of funds being diverted from this trust by certain parties, without the beneficiaries even being notified." The tension rose again, thickening in the air. Each word was a dagger to George's carefully constructed defense. Sarah glanced at Diana, amazed at her bravery. It was almost like watching a warrior fight against an unseen foe. Her heart swelled with appreciation, but also anxiety. Could Diana really pull off what seemed impossible? The judge adjusted his spectacles, looking intently at the records. "We need transparency. All dealings surrounding this trust must be made available to this court. If there's been wrongdoing, we will address it." George's face paled, and for the first time, fear flickered across his features. Sarah found herself wanting to smile at the sign of his unraveling. "Is this your way of admitting you've been untruthful in handling your late brother's estate?" Diana pressed, her voice growing stronger. Silence weighed heavily in the courtroom as George's mouth opened and closed, his frantic mind racing, searching for an escape. "Your Honor," he began, voice low and tremulous, "if this trust truly exists as claimed, then it clearly belongs to Sarah's children," Diana finished, her voice ringing with conviction. "They deserve this. It's time to end the secrecy." The public gallery sighed collectively, and Sarah's heart felt lighter. Could it be true? Was the future changing before her eyes? But reality seeped back in. George was not done. He was powerful, and the game was far from over. When the judge called for a short recess, Sarah felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. This was just the beginning, and George still had cards up his sleeve. As people began to shuffle out of the courtroom, Sarah noticed George's eyes fixated on her. The chilling glare sent shivers racing down her spine. "What happens now?" Ellen asked, concern etched on her face as they stood, whispering amongst the commotion. "Now we need to stay strong," Sarah replied, her heart thumping hard in her chest. "We might have opened a door, but I can't shake the feeling there's more darkness ahead." As she watched George retreat further into shadows, Sarah felt a surge of determination bubble inside her. But would courage be enough to face what was next? The moment of truth lingered like a storm on the horizon. Would Diana's revelations ripple through their lives for good, or would the weight of greed pull them back into chaos? The recess felt like an eternity. Sarah leaned against the cold wooden wall of the courtroom, her heart thudding loudly in her ears. She could see Diana pacing in the corner, her expressive hands moving as she whispered to Ellen. The energy in the room was thick, charged with hope and uncertainty. "What are you going to do?" Ellen finally asked Sarah, breaking the silence that settled around them. "I wish I knew," Sarah said, running a hand through her hair. "I want to believe we're finally getting somewhere, but I can almost feel George lurking, waiting to strike back. This isn't over yet." As they spoke, George suddenly emerged from the shadows. The smirk on his face twisted the room's atmosphere. It was chilling. He walked straight toward them, the crowd parting slightly, eyes watching him with a mix of apprehension and disdain. "Sarah," he said, voice smooth, "do you really think that what Diana presented is going to make a difference?" He leaned in, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "You're playing a game with forces beyond your understanding." Her spine stiffened. "Jack's trust was meant to protect my kids. You can't intimidate me into walking away." "Oh, dear Sarah," he said, feigning sympathy. "This isn't about intimidation. It's about reality. A reality where you have no claim to anything if I choose to fight this. And I will." His eyes drilled into hers, the menace clear. Moments later, the judge's gavel echoed throughout the courtroom, signaling everyone to return to their seats. The hushed whispers subsided as tension re-entered the air. With a composed demeanor, the judge resumed his seat. His authoritative presence restored a sense of order. "Let the proceedings continue," he said. "We will now hear the testimonies regarding the trust." Sarah's pulse quickened. Diana stood, gathering her papers, determination etched on her face. As she approached the witness stand, Sarah couldn't help but admire her resolve. She was no longer just a lawyer, she was a beacon of hope. Diana took a deep breath and began detailing the trust's origins, explaining how it was meant not only for the children's financial security, but as a legacy of Jack's love and care. The more Diana spoke, the more the audience leaned in, their eyes drinking in every word. Sarah felt an infectious wave of hope wash over her, each testimony weaving a narrative of her family's future that had been stolen. "Mr. Harrison," Diana said, pushing hard against George's facade. "You are a man of influence, but this trust was established to safeguard those who don't have your wealth. It's time you answered for your actions." But just as the words settled, George struck back, his voice cutting through the air like a whip. "Witnesses are as malleable as their testimonies. Why should we take anything at face value, especially when profit and loss hang in the balance?" Gasps filled the courtroom, and the judging eyes seemed to flicker with doubt. Sarah's heart dropped. She watched as George's confidence revived, feeling the tension twist again. What if Diana was wrong? What if George was right? Suddenly her shield of hope felt fragile, and doubt crept in like a cold shadow. Ellen squeezed Sarah's hand tightly, grounding her momentarily. "Don't let him sway you. We've come too far." And just then, something shifted within Sarah. She could feel her fears, but also an unyielding spirit rising inside her. "You're right," she whispered. "We can't back down now." As the courtroom plunged into deeper chaos and with the stakes soaring even higher, Sarah realized this fight would not solely be about money. It was a battle for truth, for her children's future, for justice. "Your Honor," she found herself shouting, the words bursting forth, "if the integrity of the trust is questioned, then let us spring in all dealings. Let us uncover every layer of deceit." The judge's eyes widened slightly, intrigue sparking in them. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, George stepped closer, a dark glint in his eyes. "Careful, Sarah," he warned, his voice deceptively calm. "You might just unleash something you can't control." The warning echoed ominously as Sarah looked back at Diana, her resolve solidifying. She knew they had to unravel this mystery together. And then, a question formed in her mind, one she dared to ask. How far was she willing to go to protect her family? The next chapter loomed ahead, filled with uncertainty and danger. Would she find the strength to face the darkness that George held? The gavel struck with authority, summoning silence in the courtroom once again. Sarah could feel the weight of all eyes upon her, intensity rippling through the air. Doubt slithered in, but the fire ignited within her grew brighter, as if a spark of resistance pushed it along. "Thank you, Your Honor," Diana spoke again, her steady voice cutting through the tension. "What we're asking for is a fair investigation into the trust clearly established by Jack and never intended to be warped by greed or betrayal." The judge nodded thoughtfully. "I am inclined to see that all dealings concerning the trust are made transparent. But we must remain focused on facts." "Exactly," Sarah interjected, her voice stronger than she felt. "The truth isn't just about numbers. It embodies all our emotions, the loyalty, the love Jack had for our family. If George wishes to disregard that, then we will expose him." Her motherly instincts blazed within her. She felt every heartbeat hers, her children's, her neighbors, all urging her to push through the barricades of wealth and pride. "Your Honor," George's voice used smug superiority, filled with ice-cold ambition. "This entire spectacle is merely a diversion to attract sympathy. I ask you to verify the integrity of these claims. If my brother's wishes were so clear-cut, why are there questions because you've manufactured them?" Sarah's voice rang out, confidence resonating as she interrupted. "You've hidden the truth behind meticulously crafted facades. But it's time for the past to surface." The courtroom buzzed again, excitement, curiosity, tension, each sound carrying its weight. George's glare hardened while Sarah felt the momentum shift. "Let us not forget, Jack didn't just build wealth, he built memories. He solidified love through his actions. Those secrets buried may have been to protect us from petty conflict, but they've only festered." Diana looked at Sarah, a shared recognition sparking between them. "You're absolutely right. Jack wanted everyone to thrive. There's proof waiting in this very room." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And what do you purport that proof is?" Jack often spoke about integrity and character. "Those values mattered more than the wealth itself," Diana continued, her voice commanding. "Yet, they've been manipulated by family wish to garner what is not deserved." A mixture of gasps and murmurs coursed through the courtroom. Even George's proud facade faltered ever so slightly, and Sarah seized the moment. "George," she pressed, tipping the balance in her favor, "you've treated this family's legacy as if it's yours to claim. You thought money could buy silence, but I want you back down. Jack was a man of compassion. I will not let you erase his memory." With that, the judge called for order, the room still buzzing around them. The tension vibrated like taut strings, waiting for the next note to ring through. "Mrs. Jenkins," the judge said with undeniable authority, "this is a formidable case, and as it stands, I allow the introduction of evidence that supports your claims. We need to dissect the spider's web you describe." As he motioned for the court officers to gather files and documents, Sarah felt her heart quicken. The rush of anticipation came like a tidal wave. This battle could finally shift. Hope bloomed, pulsating fiercely as light broke through the crack of uncertainty. But as evidence unfolded before them, the atmosphere shifted. Sabotage wasn't merely a whispering specter. It lurked in shadows, palpable and real. George couldn't be trusted. The first documents unfurled before the judge, outlining years of financial transactions that wove into deception. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized familiar names mixed among the transactions. "Your Honor," George attempted to regain ground, "this evidence is circumstantial. We're talking about complex finances. Anyone can look like they're pretending to push money. How can you be assured against malicious fortunes?" But it was too late. The judge's eyes sharpened, narrowing at George's objection. "I will not allow smokescreens to cloud the truth. Today, if there is something to reveal, let it be known. Jack chose to protect his family, reneging on connections you fostered for monetary gain." Sarah shot back, her blood pumping vigorously. Witnesses emerged from patterns of deception, each one unearthing layers of George's mismanagement. It was stunning. A glimmer of realization crept into the minds of the audience, voices murmuring acknowledgement. The tide was turning. With fervor, Sarah couldn't help herself. "You see, everything revolved around deeper connections, a legacy worth more than gold, one stitched within love." I was Jack's partner, and nothing you say can alter that bond. Something in the atmosphere shifted. George's facade cracked, and for the first time, he looked vulnerable, like a cornered animal. It wasn't just about the money anymore. The truth now felt like an avalanche, about to bury him completely. An unexpected voice rose from the crowd, a close friend of Jack, emboldened by the atmosphere. Jack was always generous, looking to lend a hand to anyone who needed it. He made this legacy for Sarah's children, not to fuel jealousy from family members. With unwavering resolve, and together with the fragments of support growing larger by the minute, Sarah realized that fighting, it wasn't just her battle anymore. It was a community's fight to protect love, family, and everything that mattered most. The urgency, the burning desire for truth surged within her. They stood together, neighbors, friends, her children, all united to resist the greed of one man, a humbled beacon of clarity in this dim courtroom. "Your Honor," Sarah spoke, her voice fierce and strong, holding steady in the eye of the storm, "I owe it to my children to reveal everything. The time has come to embrace all that Jack cherished. We stand firm, together. Let this legacy not just be about wealth, but about healing, love, and familial bonds." The judge's gavel sounded once more, and in that moment, it felt like the storm of secrets, both menacing and magnificent, hung in the balance, waiting for a final call. And Sarah knew right then, this was only the beginning. A wave of transformation surged. Her family's truth was set to rise up, and this time they wouldn't falter. As the courtroom filled with whispers of solidarity, an undeniable force gathered strength. Salvation was rising, and her children's future glimmered like stars just out of reach. Now it was time to take the leap. If you loved this emotionally charged conclusion, you need to subscribe now to catch more exclusive stories that inspire change and healing. This is the moment to show your support. Don't forget to leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every click counts. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending, because I want to hear what you thought. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions, and I can't do it without you.